There'd been talk over the years of people wanting to use INAV with a fixed wing auto speed mode, and this is what this setup here does. As you can see in the middle on the left hand side, you've got airspeed, and then above that you've got 3D speed. The arrow next to it shows which one's in operation, and that speed is derived from the target speed, which you can set from a potentiometer on the radio. And then up the top on the middle left, you've got auto speed, which is your throttle. The top one is the main throttle output. The one below it is the one that comes from the auto speed control throttle. So as you can see, it's set the target speed at 70 kilometers an hour, and you can see their auto throttle is actually changing according to what is required to maintain the set airspeed at the moment, where that arrow on the left is next to. So they're holding pretty close to 70 kilometers an hour. This particular function will run in any flight mode, so it doesn't have to be auto navigation flight mode. It can actually just be manual even, or you can use it in acro, so you don't have to worry about pushing the throttle up. I've just switched over, as you can see, now to 3D speed, so the arrow's on the top one, not on the airspeed anymore. I'm in acro here at the moment, as you can see, and it's roughly holding the same. I'm about to pull a loop. You can see the throttle goes right up to 80%, which is what I've got it maxed out at. It overshoots it a little bit as it comes down the other side, so it drops the throttle back until it gets to a bit under the target. Now it's back up around 70 again. I didn't hold the nose up a bit there, but you can see it overspeeded, so it's dropped the throttle right down to 25, which was what I had set for the minimum with these settings. Then it rises back up again to hold the target. Another loop. You can see where the airspeed flashed there for a moment. Some of you may have noticed it, and the target speed went to 0. I've changed that a little bit. What that actually does is that's when it actually applies more throttle to maintain ahead of the minimum airspeed. So if you happen to be flying in 3D as this is, and you get a tailwind that's pretty strong and the minimum airspeed drops below 50 is what I've got it set, it'll increase the speed so that it stays ahead of it, so that the plane doesn't stall. Now I'm going to run a waypoint mission, and this too can run it, as you can see, it runs with the auto speed mode. It's in a bit of a dive here, so it's overspeeding a little bit. It does make a noticeable difference to how well it tracks too when it can hold a set speed. Normally when it's running a whatever your throttle is, say, I don't know, 50% throttle, it tends to overspeed on the downwind legs and slow down a little bit on the upwind legs, where this actually holds the turns better because the speed's held at a constant. I was going to do this video in HD, but I ended up doing it in analog because this analog's got audio, and you will be able to hear the motor rev up in the background, which is quite handy. It really gives you a good idea of what's happening. Don't worry about there, I'm just looking up around for birds. We have wedge-tail eagles in this area, and they tend to just dive bomb you and try to take the plane out. As you can see, the fluctuations usually maybe 1 to 2 kilometers an hour above or below. You can tighten it up a little bit more with the integral term, with the throttle control, but it does vary a little bit on the plane, how much thrust the plane produces for its specific drag and weight. Plus, you don't necessarily want it too harsh, otherwise the motor's continuously oscillating by trying to maintain the target speed. So, 1 or 2 k's an hour I don't consider to be too bad. As far as the throttle settings, as I said earlier, it goes up to, or allows to run up to 80% throttle is the maximum that the actual airspeed can actually be called for, and it can run down to 25%, I think I got it here, which is the minimum amount of throttle that it can use to maintain the set airspeed. This day wasn't that windy, so on days where it is windy, you know, where it's up around say 25 kilometers an hour, at times like that when you're running a mission, the minimum airspeed will drop below 50s, which is what I've got the min set to. It'll start to flash, and then it'll just drive the actual target airspeed up by however many k's it drops below it. So in other words, just say it dropped below 50 by 3 or 4 k's, then it'll drive the target up by 3 or 4 k's, so that it always maintains ahead of what the minimum airspeed is. So, and that minimum airspeed is based on a safe minimum airspeed, not just what the plane stalls at. Like for instance, if your plane stalls 35 k's an hour, you want it set at least 1/3 greater, say at 50 k's an hour, so that it actually has time to detect and to push ahead and stay ahead of the wind, so you don't, you know, create a dip stall situation if the plane happens to pull up in the mission, or if it's in return to home, if it happens to climb or something like that. These changes, I will note that they are actually in the programming framework, so anyone can add them if they want to, and I'll leave a link that goes back to the INAV repository in the discussion, so that all the information is there if anyone wants to add it themselves. It would be nice if it was actually in the main code, but at this point it's just something to go off so that people can try it. It overrides pitch to throttle in this case when it climbs. Like you'll see here, it climbs at the end of the mission, and it actually just bases the climb on holding the target speed. So you can see it's at 70, it's trying to push the throttle up to get up to 70, it's holding 70, and you can see it's climbing at about 6 meters a second to try to get up to home altitude. So it works, you know, a little bit different to what the normal pitch to throttle does. As you can see here, you'll hear the motor rev up here in a sec. That was when I actually pushed the throttle up to actually override it. So if you want to get out of it quickly, you can push the throttle up or pull it down quickly from the point it was at when you activated speed mode, and that will override speed mode. As you can see, it's all gone off the screen now. It's still on in the switch, so if I wanted to reactivate it, I'd turn the speed mode switch off and back on again, and you've got three position switch, which is off. In the middle is ground speed 3D, and in the upper position is airspeed. So if anybody, you know, thinks this is interesting and like to add it to their plane, they can just have a look through and set it up.